Hi, everyone. Teresa Aker here, and you're watching Success Diaries. It's my privilege today to introduce you to Christy Holt. How you doing, Christy?
Hi, Teresa. I am fantastic. Thank you so much. I can't wait to dive into this conversation with you. I know that we're going to have a whole bunch of fun.
We certainly are. You're going to talk to us about relationships and love and all that fun stuff, right?
Absolutely. You know it.
So, Christy is the author of Love Unstuck. So, we have 1,001 questions. The audience, my audience, definitely wants to know a lot of things. So, let's start at the beginning and not your beginning. Basically, let's start at love. Let's start at the very phrase of what is love? What is it, Christy?
Well, you know what? To me, love is actually the core essence of our being. It is our natural intended state. And it's not something that we collect from the world around us. It's something that we create within. And it overflows into the world around us, which creates our experience of receiving it back. So that would be my very quick answer to your question. But we're going to dive a little further into it, I'm sure, throughout the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what makes you an expert on love? Tell me.
Oh, gosh. Well, I, like many, have been through a lot of things. So as a lot of my personal journey plays into this. I call myself the happiness hussy. I'm on a mission to, spread love and happiness and help as many people out there to create healthy, loving relationships that really do make them happy. Part of my story is that I'm a twice divorced, but now happily partnered for 7 years, adventure traveling, fun loving mom of three sons of my own, plus a bonus son. Together, we have four teenage boys. And I have to say that slowly so that nobody hears 14 because that would be crazy. But yeah, I had this sort of like aha moment in my second marriage where I really came to the realization I had been living completely on autopilot. I was not in control of my life. I was just going with the flow. I wasn't really very happy and I didn't know how I quite had gotten to where I was. I was exhausted, resentful, I was anxious, I was overwhelmed. I didn't have any boundaries. I was people pleasing. I was so concerned with what everyone else was thinking and saying. I was worried about making everyone else happy while I was kind of dying inside. And truthfully, my inner world was a mess until I came to this realization that holy crap, I'm the common denominator in every single one of my problems. And so ultimately, what I want to share with you is from that point, all of the things that I had learned from those past experiences as this anxious, overwhelmed mom and wife who honestly at that point couldn't see a lot of hope for the future. I wasn't sure how to create the relationship that I felt somehow I deserved, but I couldn't quite figure out how to get there. And so I was just sort of struggling with feeling unseen, unheard. I was feeling lonely, and I just generally felt stuck, which is why my book is called Love Unstuck, because it is the pathway. It is, my lessons through this very long season of personal struggle where I discovered what I had been missing and what had actually been preventing me from being truly happy. So I can't wait to share what that missing link is, and how you can use it as a listener to create your life full of love, peace, happiness, and joy.
That's a great definition. Hold up your book for us, will you? I've got it
Oh,
up on the screen behind us. Perfect. So love unstuck, right?
yeah.
So, okay. So my logic is when you say love unstuck, so you probably have all these emotions and things inside of you, turmoil, you've had past trauma and you have carrying other people's trauma. You're a mom and you're a wife. You mentioned that you felt kind of you were anxious, you were taking care of everybody else. I think that's normal. Would you agree with most women? I certainly did, and I loved my marriage, but I went through a couple myself to find the perfect marriage. But you know what? I gave a lot. I really did not create my own life. I was there to be. I wanted to be that wonderful wife and mother and try and do the best I could. I was a stepmother. That's not an easy task when you bring in other children into a relationship, but we
Yep.
did it. We figured it out. And from there, I certainly felt the love, but it's not an easy ride for women, is it? And I'm not saying it's not for men, because men do find it challenging as well. But for women specifically, I think they do find it challenging.
Well, I want to say that I think it's not normal. It's common, but I don't want to normalize unhealthy patterns because
Sure.
that's essentially what this is, right? And I think that, a lot of women, myself included in my past, have been frustrated, resentful, complaining, blaming, etc., etc. And while it might be partially a boundaries or partially a communication issue, it is also probably largely a conditioning piece as well, right? The way that we've been brought up to be as women, right? The gender roles and the patriarchal standards and systems, they come from an earlier time. And so those are shifting as humans are evolving.
Yeah.
And some of those coping mechanisms that we've picked up, the people pleasing, right? For example, in codependency, these patterns are now being brought to light. And so it's a time for a shift. And yeah, that's kind of what this conversation, I suspect, is going to end up being all about.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, all right, Christy, what shift? What are we talking about? I see that the men are finding their new roles in the relationship field. Women, I'm suspecting, and I've had some other guests on who've said the same thing, women don't necessarily look anymore for that nurturing role anymore because they actually can find their own way financially, emotionally, with their tribe, their friends, and so forth. They are, doing the best they can. And I think we've been conditioned for a long time that, especially in the 70s and 80s, where we had to be working moms, take care of
Yeah.
everything, still take care of the home, and do it all. And I think there was a book a long time ago, please forgive me, I believe it was called The Superwoman, where we thought we could be everything. And guess what? We couldn't.
Yeah.
So we found that out with a lot of burnout.
It's too
So
much.
exactly. So answer this for me, if you will, to our viewers. Are the roles changing and are they healthy roles? Or is this going to be a resentfulness on the men's side?
I mean, it's a tricky balance, isn't it? Because when systems shift and structures change, there's going to likely be resistance from the people who were benefiting from how it was before. And they might not be benefiting in really great ways, but they may feel like there's some kind of benefit, right? Like our brain loves to hang on to things that we think we're benefiting from. Even if it's a story that we're a victim of something,
Yeah.
our brain loves to hang on to those stories. And our stories create our experience. So, of course, as things are shifting, as women are not as reliant on men, right? We don't need for them to provide for our every need, right? We're looking more for mutuality. We're looking more for emotional connection. We're looking more for real partnership. And that is throwing that all in the face of the patriarchal systems that have been in place for quite some time. So, of course, men I know right now are definitely thinking like, what the heck? Like I was supposed to be the provider and now there's all this other expectation. So
Yeah.
of course it's gonna ruffle some feathers, right? Because this is a call not just for men. Of course, it's a call for women to step up too, because we can't have emotionally intelligent, intimate relationships one-sided. So we are both being called to step into a new system that favors real genuine partnership and real genuine connection over structured systems where it's a power over dynamic, where the man is the head of the household, for example. The man is meant to be the provider and the woman the soft nurturer. Those roles are shifting because women have stepped into more of those masculine roles as generally as a result of necessity for survival over the last 30, 40, 50 years, since we've been able to actually do that and assert ourselves and create careers and have more. And I don't want to dive down the feminist rabbit hole. There were many good things from that because women do absolutely deserve equality. We're not as far apart as a lot of places make us out to be. We're all human. We all are whole. We all contain within ourselves the full spectrum of human beingness. And yet, there are pieces of the feminist narrative that pushed women, like you said, into this superwoman role where now we're expected to have and be and do it all. And that's too much. So we've got to find that happy medium, that balance in between. And that involves a few things. Setting healthy boundaries is definitely one of those pieces.
And so, as you say, setting healthy boundaries, what are some of the boundaries that you're thinking of there? Because here's what I'm thinking, Christy. It all sounds good,
Yeah.
but we have an inherent brain that says the men are protectors and the women are nurturers. I realize times are changing, but have we really caught up to that? I mean, I still, and perhaps this is dating myself, but I still want my man to be the man. And I don't mean that in a sexual ways. I don't mean it that way. What I mean is the very boundaries that I've always had in my life for men has always been that, yeah, they're going to be the man. It doesn't mean they're better or more powerful or whatever. It means they're protecting, they're giving, they're loving, and they're the provider. It doesn't matter if I make more, just
Right.
that he's providing. Okay. So I still expect that. That's just my opinion, and that's just what I look for. The flip side is I like my feminine side, but I also know that I have to not necessarily be all feminine anymore. I do have to step up into my masculine side and do some of those things I didn't have to do before. So why am I saying all of that to you? Because I don't think you can put it into a nutshell and just say, this is the way it is, and we just kind of have to deal with it. Because I think we are getting repercussions from that. Would you agree?
Yeah. And I think that we run into problems when we overgeneralize. Nothing
Correct.
is all men or all women. Nothing is all, all black or white. It's all shades of gray in between, and really, honestly, a full spectrum of color all the way around. And so, when we're trying to figure out what it is we want from a relationship, we really have to do inward looking instead of relying on the systems to define it for us.
Yeah.
I think it's about getting curious about what fits for me. And I think that's where boundaries are part of it, and expectations, because you kind of alluded to expectations of, this is what you're seeking from a potential partner. And I think that's really fair and valid. You know, I want to just like total little sideline about boundaries, because I feel like there can be a lot of confusion around boundaries and what they are. So I want to just provide a brief moment of clarity on that. Boundaries are an invitation, right? They're an invitation into how you, as someone who wants to be in partnership or relationship of any kind with me, how you can love me best, right? Now, it's not an ultimatum, although a lot of people seem to kind of treat them like one. It's not meant to be a wall, it's not meant to block people out. It's meant to be an invitation into your inner world. And because what we tolerate continues, right? And what we create for expectations, that's usually what creates our experience, and the stories that we have all together create that experience. We have to, first of all, get clear on what it is we desire. And it's always a good idea to question that. Am I desiring this because conditioning told me so and
Oh,
told me
sure.
I should? Or is this something that truly aligns with my values? And I think that just taking that moment to pause and ask the questions and do a little bit of self-discovery, asking, where did I get this belief? Who does it serve? Does it serve me? If
Yeah.
so, yeah, I'm going to keep it. If not, if it's just something I picked up from, religion or the, patriarchy or systems in general, then maybe it's not serving me. And so just having curiosity around that makes a huge difference. And then when we're enforcing those boundaries or expectations, we have to be really careful that we don't slip into some kind of idea that we're going to control the other people, because that's not what it's about either. As I said, it's an invitation. It's not an ultimatum. So this is setting a boundary isn't, you can't do that to me. It's, if you speak to me that way, I will have to exit the conversation until you can speak calmly. And then doing that when that situation arises. So it's your response to the, we'll say, undesirable situation that the boundary is truly about. And I think a lot of people miss that little tiny nuance there.
Yeah, that's very good, Christy. Now, you would have to, of course, address those things prior to engaging in a marriage, I would imagine, or living together.
I mean,
The other,
some of it, some
yeah,
of it
and the
comes
other thing is, as
as you learn.
we're talking obviously about a heterosexual relationship. We're not into, we haven't discussed same-sex marriages, different types of relationships that are out there. And that's certainly, again, how you want to have that relationship.
Of
So
course.
I'm thinking what you're trying to say is where you, the boundaries that you set and the personally, not you, me personally set, I'm going to draw in someone that can be openly communicating with me and understand where I'm coming from, but I also have to be open to what they're coming from. And then from there, if we can have that relationship, and only after we've had that discussion and only after we understand each other can it go further. Would that be what you mean?
Well, yes and no,
Okay.
because nothing is black and white. It's a both
No,
and. I think that there are some things you know in advance, and there are some things that you discover along the way through
sure,
the relationship.
sure.
And so, of course, we're always adjusting and learning and responding to, relationships are ultimately a mirror. So there are lots of opportunities. I look at, people say the word triggers. I prefer to look at it as an activation. And I talk
Sure.
about this in my book about the difference, because this is an opportunity for you to learn something about yourself. And I know so many people look at other people and they're like, oh, it's them, it's them. And I'm guilty of this. So I'm not saying this from any place of shame or
Yeah.
superiority or anything. But things shifted for me when I started looking at what's my role in this? What's my piece in this? And being able to have difficult conversations early in the relationship is crucial, because it will show you how they respond when there's a conflict, right? And how they're going to hold your heart when you bring something difficult to them, and how they're going to be able to communicate through difficult conversations or topics. And so, yes, we should be talking about those boundaries that we're aware of. And hopefully, we're building a relationship with someone who is open and willing to discuss further boundaries as they come about while we move through relationships and have different situations arise.
So all of that sounds good, but then what happens when the heart wants what the heart wants, Christy?
Well, I would like, can you clarify what you mean in that
Yeah,
situation?
because people get into relationships and they may even know it's not the best situation.
Mm.
So, but they are not going to give up. So they're going to keep trying and they're going to keep trying to, as you said, you can't fix someone else, you can't change them, but the heart wants what the heart wants, right?
Oh,
And
well, yeah,
you know that as a relationship coach, no matter how much you say to someone, maybe you should move on, or maybe this isn't working, they're going to hang in there. And I know that happens. So
I did that. I
yeah,
did that
yeah.
too. So I
I
get
had
it.
a couple
And
of marriages, I had to figure it out. So
yeah,
you
I
get it,
mean, in
right?
my second marriage, yeah, I was one time I was complaining a little bit about the situation. He's blah blah blah, which was not fruitful in any way, shape, or form. I see that now, but I didn't see it then. And we don't know, right? We're always just operating with the
Sure.
the knowledge and understanding we have at the time. And I had a friend say, "Well, like, just stop complaining because you're never gonna leave him." And honestly, that was a bit of a slap in the face. And I was
Yeah,
like, you know
there's a lot
what?
of truth to that.
And I was like, I can't let her be right about it. No, I'm just kidding. But it gave me pause, right? So that I could reflect, what am I doing here? Because when we're faced with that situation, of course I had love for him. He was the father of my children, right?
Right.
I didn't take that decision lightly. And in fact, I stayed for countless years, unhappy, overwhelmed, anxious, walking on eggshells all day long, you know? And I know when you're in that situation how incredibly difficult it is to make a change. And everyone makes their decision in the right and perfect timing for them. So no one else can tell you you should leave, and that will just make you, oh, okay, yeah, of course, obviously I should leave. No, you need to come to your own decision about it. So
Yeah.
being aware of the patterns and situations that are arising is a really good first piece. Secondly, most of us, well, wait a minute, maybe not most, a lot of us for sure haven't been modeled what healthy, happy relationships look like. We haven't been taught how healthy communication goes down. We just may lack some skills or tools to bring us together. And then we have all of these systems that are pitting us against each other, saying that like men are from Mars and women are from Venus and we're so different, and how do we bridge the gap, right? Instead of just saying like, we're two humans, we're both whole, we share these common values, and we have these things where maybe things are not as aligned, and how can we grow together? And I think, in that situation where you're in it, you're really in the muck, sometimes you just can't see what's available for you, and sometimes an outside perspective and guide to help you not figure out everything at once, but figure out your next step, right? Is that going to be talking about something difficult that you've been keeping quiet on? Is it going to be setting a boundary and expectation of something that you need? Or is it going to be just ultimately, completely, and wholly choosing yourself and creating the life that you wanted, but is not aligned with where you're at currently? So a guide can really help. And that's kind of the work that I do, is help you to, I listen, I don't have the answers. I'm nobody's guru. I'm like, I'm not on a pedestal by any means, but I've been through it and I came out the other side. And all of the things that I learned along the way, I often say, like, knowledge is cute, but embodied wisdom is where your true power lies. And
Sure.
that's the truth of it.
Excellent. Now, let's go back to your book. Hold it up again.
Okay.
If you could give a message from your book, the number one message you want to give everyone, what would it be?
I think the underlying theme under all of my work is that it's really about how things are within you. We think that it's about the communication. We think that it's about the sex. We think that it's about the money. We think that it's about the in laws. And it's not. It's all a mirror. It's all an opportunity to reflect within. And like I mentioned earlier, your stories create your experience, and neuroscience is proving this more and more in quantum physics. Like, the research is catching up to show that it's our stories creating our experience rather than our experience creating our stories. And so when we look at it from that lens, it's our consciousness creating rather than directly responding to it, which is tricky for people to understand. And honestly, I'm still like figuring this out on some layers for myself. But what this means in the relationships is that it's an opportunity for the relationship. And this can be an intimate relationship. It could be a relationship with money. It can be a relationship with work or social media or politics or any of it, your body. It's an invitation to look inward and to have compassion with yourself. Awareness is what allows you to start to open up to see those things that you didn't know, that you didn't see before, and then start intentionally, consciously choosing something different rather than reacting, from emotional triggers or whatnot. And this awareness, this compassionate, inquiry is what helps us to create relational sovereignty, right? So we're not intertwined in codependent, narcissistic patterns or any other kind of coping patterns that are just generally unhealthy. And it also helps to create what I call like erotic wholeness, which is just really meeting each other in your wholeness in a really intimate way.
Well said, Christy. So if somebody wants to get your book right now, is it on Amazon?
Yeah.
Is it on other news book places? Where is it?
Oh, it's all over the place. It's in a lot of places wherever you might get your books: Barnes and Noble, Audible, Amazon. Yeah, it's in a lot of places. So you can find it pretty largely.
Okay, so now let's say you're out 5 years from now. Is there more books in your future? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
I have no idea because I am very much a live in the present moment. I certainly do think there are probably more books because this was not my first book. I don't even know how to start counting them now because I've published about 12 different things. So I have
Congratulations.
I have coloring books and I have a self-discovery journal. And my first book was just about getting unstuck from those spiral patterns. And then I have also, done a couple of other side projects. So I've done a few things. Certainly, I am a writer and a speaker at heart. So this will not be the end of that. But what's coming? I don't know. I just love to, wake up and see where I'm like led for that day and do the things that really light me up because I want to shift this back actually to what I hinted at the beginning of this secret key ingredient to really experiencing and creating your happiness, which is authenticity. This is showing up as who you are, not people pleasing, not performing, not trying to fit into the mold, not doing what others expect you to do, but showing up wholly, fully, unapologetically as yourself. And, this piece, especially when it comes to relationships, I'll give you an example, which hopefully will help solidify it. Is if you, okay, here's a really solid example because I was just last week, and I recorded a podcast episode about this, was on a plane. The guy in front of me is on his phone. He's flipping between ChatGPT, some relationship memes of what women want, and his text messages. Okay. He was literally creating a perfect persona in real time. And so I see this as a very 2025 AI age dating metaphor, because people are curating these personalities based on what they think, what they've been told, what those relationship gurus out there have told them what women want.
Sure.
But what women want, and what actually, it doesn't even matter what women want versus men want. It doesn't matter. What actually creates healthy relationships is showing up as yourself. Because this guy has got this perfect persona, shows up to the date, and she's like, who is this guy? Right? Because if you don't have the actual skills and tools and you're just creating this fake persona online, when you show up, she's going to see right through it. And this isn't about men or women. Okay. So before anybody comes at me, it's not a man versus woman thing. It just, this particular
Sure.
example was the guy in front of me on the plane. Women, I'm sure, do this too. And we definitely do, as far as like, we've been really conditioned to be the nice girl, the people pleaser, the one who shows up and is agreeable to things, right? But when we do that all the time at our own expense, we are literally giving up our own happiness. And we end up getting into relationships where this is perpetuated day in and day out, right? Now there's this expectation. Well, this is who they think that I am, so I have to keep this up.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that is not the recipe for a healthy life or a happy life. So, authenticity to me is sort of like the underlying key to creating real, genuine connection. And without it, it's not going to be that kind of intimacy that you're really looking for. And it can even be a bit of a manipulation, if you will, to get someone to like you by pretending that you're different than you actually are. And that might land you the partner, but it's not going to land you the happiness, because now you're stuck in a pattern of having to pretend.
I think you're probably right, Christy. I can see where you're coming from. That's a good point of view. I think it's human nature to try to bring your best self forward when you're meeting
Yeah,
people. I think that's a normal thing. And you're saying now AI has added another element to that. So now it's even higher expectations coming out of a person, and they feel they're inadequate unless they meet all these standards. But I would suggest that even if I think way back in my dating time and as a single person today, I would still want to put my best foot forward. And I think anyone you're dating is doing the same thing. However, I think you are 100% right on. You still have to be authentic,
yeah,
even though you're trying to impress the other person. You can't kind of take away from yourself. And I think there's a dynamic in all relationships where it actually does, the sooner both become authentic, the better, because then now you can decide, okay, is this really the one for me? So I'm in agreement with you.
exactly. Yeah, and listen, there's nothing wrong with putting your best foot forward. I don't
Yeah.
think that's being inauthentic in any way, shape, or form. I
No.
think that, we want to show up
Yeah.
the way that we want to show up. But when we're putting on masks
Mhm.
and pretending to like football when we really don't, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Pretending to anything, pretend, saying something that doesn't really feel right for you. That's what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. That's when you're going to be out of alignment, and you're going to end up matching with football guy, even though you freaking hate football, right? Another one of my past stories.
But I do think now, after saying that, if someone's interested in football, let's just say, and you haven't been, there's nothing wrong with being open to those ideas
Absolutely
and
not.
maybe finding out, really, if you had never given it a thought. Maybe you're not into artists or to football or hockey or something. Oh, be open-minded to it, and certainly
Absolutely.
combined. And perhaps the person you're with, if you're interested in other things, they should maybe be open-minded to your likes and dislikes, to sort of get
Yeah.
that idea. But you're right, there, you can't just sort of try to fit in their mold. You want to be yourself anyway, because in the long run, you're right, it's all going to come out anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you can say, "Oh, I love football," but you know what?
Yeah,
If you don't know anything about football, you're gonna get
that's right. That's right.
uncovered pretty
Yeah.
quick, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm one of those people, if somebody mentions something to me, I'll investigate it. If it's something I'm
Yeah.
interested in, I'm really interested. If I'm not, well, you can't really get me to do it. So that's
Yeah.
the way it goes, right?
Yeah,
But
and we all have to be open to that, right?
yeah,
And having, this general curiosity about other
yeah,
people and their interests is really important. Who wants to be with someone who's just like, "No, I don't like that. No, I don't like that."
yeah,
No, we
I
want
know.
people who are gonna at least show interest, even if it's not to the same level that we're interested in the thing. My current partner loves role playing, like Dungeons and Dragons type stuff,
Oh,
and
sure.
he
Okay.
wanted me to join, and I joined him for one session because I am open to trying different
Yeah,
things. It wasn't really my favorite thing. It wasn't my jam, and so he respects that. Like he's like, you know what, I appreciate that you tried.
yeah.
It's totally fine that it wasn't your new passion, right? And so being open and curious is really, really important too.
I agree with that. I do. Well done, Christy. Honestly, I'm very grateful that you come on today. And, you have a lot of really good ideas. Do you want to come back for another episode down the road, see how you're doing?
I would absolutely love to.
Oh, good, Christy. I enjoyed myself with you today, and I know you're working hard. Pull that book up one more time, just because we want to make sure everybody sees it. So it's called Love Unstuck. So
Mhm.
everyone, go over to Amazon, take a look at her book, and go ahead and purchase it. And we'll have Christy back down the road on another episode. So thank you for your time today, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to share and hopefully create an impact out there and help someone just see something from a new perspective. I always just invite people to try on new perspectives because you never know which one's going to be the one that shifts everything for you.
Thank you, Christy. So everyone, this is Christy Holt. Go ahead. I'll make sure all her information, YouTube, or anything that she's. And oh, what the name of your podcast, Christy? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's called Create Your Happy. And it
Create
is
Your Happy.
ultimately all about creating conscious relationships with others and with yourself.
And that's on YouTube.
YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all the places.
Okay, so Christy, you'll make sure all those links you send them over to
I
me.
got you.
Perfect. So everyone go on over to her YouTube channel and subscribe. I always subscribe to everyone's channel. It helps everyone and give Christy a little boost there. And thank you again, Christy. And this is Teresa Aker. You've been watching Success Diaries. Do subscribe to my channel. I truly appreciate that. I hope you're all having a great day, and I look forward to talking to you all soon. Bye-bye.